Alright everyone, it's time to talk about being an ex or former Satanist. I can't say this enough because so many people who are more on like the Christian side, when I talk about like Trump or whatever, they conflate me with being a conservative. They often, if they're shilling, they try to defame me by saying I worship Satan or like I deny Pizzagate or something like that. So I've got to make it clear in its own dedicated video, I am a former Satanist. Around 2010, 2011, I was a self-proclaimed independent Satanist. First and foremost, never joined the Church of Satan, never even supported them. To tell the truth, thought it was gimmicky. I'll get into that a little bit. Never joined the Temple of Set with Aquino or any of these people. Was never a member of any actual order. About the only group that I even kind of admired was the Satanic Empire, the United Satanic Empire run by Bowersox. Jack Winners. Bowersox was a different individual. And I was never a member of their group either, although I communicated with him. Now, first, what is Satanism? Because a lot of people don't understand what it means. Satanism is a radical ideology of self-preservation and indulgence. It's atheistic in form, it doesn't have anything to do with worshipping the devil, and the vast majority of self-proclaimed Satanists you'd ever meet do not believe in Satan. Now this seems strange to people because they look at the label, they take one look at the word Satanism, they assume it means devil worship. And it really doesn't. It really has much more to do with sort of the Paradise Lost romanticized imagery of a cosmic rebel being cast down by tyrannical order and rebelling, literally to be a rebel, to make your own decisions, to eat of the fruit of knowledge, find it a good thing. It's mostly metaphor and symbology. It really, all of the sort of dark, spooky ritualism and garb of the Church of Satan is a mock-up. It's literally nothing more than an inversion of Catholic ideology, including the Black Mass, including these occasional meetings they do hold. And it's meant to mock organized religion, while being essentially a corporate entity. The Church of Satan's a corporation. It's a business. They're listed as a business. They don't declare tax-exempt status as a religion. They do this for a very good reason, which is LaVey's idea was being above board with the fact that it was essentially a money-making scheme. Of course, he's dead now. Gilmore's in charge. I've sparred with members of the Church of Satan before over the issue of Nicholas and Zena Schreck, who I like and admire, who left, again, Satanism behind, became sort of pagan occultists, I believe, for a while in the Setian path, and then moved on to Buddhism. I've also sparred with Peggy Nadramia, who's sort of their PR person, and if you want an idea of what the Church of Satan is like, just ask Peggy Nadramia about some occult issue and see her acerbic response to you, and you'll realize that it doesn't have anything to do with magic. In fact, it's quite negative against the very idea and considers it to be a negative superstition in the world. Temple of Set is LARPing, largely. You know, head Romulan himself running the organization. That's what it is. Again, it's atheistic, though, in its basic format. It's just a spin-off of the Church of Satan. And there's nothing wrong with that, but the thing is, I delved into spirituality. I wanted to look into the occult, to look into the history of mythology and things like that. Satanism sort of constrains you from doing that, because at the same time that it expresses that you should be self-aware and you should study things and do what you want to do, at the same time all of the organizations spawned from that basic term warn off people from trying to investigate these other paths as being nothing more than superstition and silliness. Alongside, they would categorize the occult or the pagan alongside Christianity, alongside Islam and things like that. So Satanism ultimately is a mock-up which almost kinda sorta fills the vacuum of atheism. That is, it is atheism, but it gives you a theatrical floor show to try to be a stand-in for actual occult experience. And I wasn't comfortable with that. I didn't find it fulfilling. I see Satanism still in a positive light, though. My suggestion now for years has been people should study and adapt the doctrines of Satanism in order to purge themselves of false guilt and false fear. Real, something you should feel guilty for, okay, that's fine. Something that a legitimate fear, that's fine. A lot of people are laden down psychologically with guilt and fear about things they really shouldn't feel it for. Satanism can help them break free of that. Only then, once they've purged that negativity that they've been given by whatever religion they were born in before, and 99% of the time, they were born into a religion, they were taught it was self-evident from young childhood. That's the problem. It fills their mind full of silliness. Only once you've purged yourself through some ideology, it doesn't have to be Satanism, but through some ideology, can you go on and fully research things, both in a secular manner and a spiritual manner. Find your own truth. Realize what makes sense, what works, because otherwise, everything you see is veiled by that fear and guilt. That's been my suggestion. It's like back when I made the video, I can help you convert to Satanism. What I'm saying in that video is, yes, I can give you the ability to adapt this ideology. I can't do it for you. I can give you some encouragement, some reading material and stuff. You can adapt this ideology to purge yourself of guilt and fear. But Satanism was never what I wanted to be an end result in sort of my spiritual journey. I'm now a pagan. I practice occultism. And when people ask me, well, what kind of paganism and what kind of occultism? All of them. I'm interested in studying every ideology and every spiritual system. I'm not going to limit myself because I'm simply exploring it all. I find it to be a worthy endeavor. It's both pleasure and work for me, honestly. And it's interesting to me. It's something that I enjoy. I enjoy mythology. I enjoy reading all the legends and epics and poems and stuff from the past. I enjoy reading about like the cryptids and the paranormal. I enjoy reading about sort of the newer stuff, you know, the modern takeoffs, seances, psychic arts, and UFOs and stuff like that. And it's all combined together. The occult is about knowledge, hidden knowledge, or veiled knowledge, or stuff that you can't quite quantify. That's the occult. People don't know often what that means either. But when people declare me to be a Satanist, they're completely wrong. I haven't used that term. I've never been a member of any satanic order. And I haven't considered myself a Satanist in more than half a decade. Because it would be pointless. It's an empty, vacuous system run by some corporate entities, essentially, some money-making business fronts. And it openly expresses the fact that it's atheistic. Now, LaVey was a showman. He was basically a literal circus showman who spun tall tales and made some interesting music and took older ideologies, specifically, here's the interesting part, libertarian ideologies from the late 1800s, early 1900s, sort of the Ayn Rand and other stuff, Ragnar Redbeard's Might is Right, reformulated it, repackaged it, called it Satanism, released it to the world, and made money doing this. It was a business. That's what Anton LaVey saw it as. That's what he expressed it as. When people asked, why doesn't he come out and defend his spiritual ideology, it's because he had no spiritual ideology to defend at the time. He'd rather have somebody else doing that maybe believed a little bit more literally in it than him, while he sat back and collected people's fees for membership in the Church of Satan. That's what Satanism represents in its purest form. Now, there are actual devil worshippers in the world, and there are pagans who consider themselves Luciferian, because they conflate the figure of Satan or the devil in general with some pagan figure, usually Enki or something like that. That's just a form of paganism that happens to use a different term. We're talking joy of Satan kind of stuff. Sometimes it gets into the blood and soil heathenism or something along those lines. As far as literal devil worshippers, I think you'll find that the average Satanist, self-proclaimed, wouldn't want to be around them. They'd probably feel more at home in a Catholic church than they would around people who spin, Iron Maiden records backwards and praise Satan and then go kill a cat. In fact, the very ideology of Satanism is against like child abuse, animal abuse. Those are banned outright within the Church of Satan's ideology. It's all very above board. It's not some secret fraternal order. It's not like the Freemasons or something like that. It doesn't even express a spiritual view. But I still can't be a Satanist because it doesn't go far enough for me into the spiritual world. It openly frowns upon it. It frowns upon the very study of spiritual systems with any degree of seriousness. So I used that essentially just to purge guilt and fear, and then I moved on, as though it was just a very basic initiatory step into the wider world of the occult and into spirituality. Now I call myself generally an occultist, or use the term pagan. then I have to explain to people what that means to me. As far as Satanism, it was an individual path, radical individualism, literally speaking. The Church of Satan doesn't offer that. The Church of Satan offers you repackaged sort of quasi-libertarian atheism. Puts a term on it, gives you some mock-up ritualism and some books. That's what the Church of Satan does. The Temple of Set basically does the same thing. I don't even consider that really Satanism. It was only Satanism when LaVey was leading the Church of Satan, because it was his mock-up, it was his radical individualism, his way of profiting. Now that other people are doing it, it's not really even Satanism anymore. It's just a totally vacuous corporate structure that has nothing to do with its original intent. Part of it was real-life trolling. Now, LaVey seemed to like that. Boyd Rice is the last person who straggled on in the Church of Satan who actually understood that. And, of course, used to wear, like, the rape t-shirt, and at his concerts he'd point floodlights into the audience till people were enraged, and he'd sit there laughing his ass off. Yeah, that's sort of what Satanism represents. Yeah, pissing people off. They came into his venue, they're in his lair, literally under Satanism's sort of philosophy, so he can sort of mistreat them. It's a little bit G.G. Allen-esque or something like that. Yeah, G.G. Allen could have been a Satanist, essentially. But I had to leave it behind because I think there's more to the spiritual than just hardline atheism with a floor show. Yeah, theatrics is all well and good. There's a place for that, by the way, in the occult. I don't even know if the people at the Church of Satan fully understand this. But that being said, I had to go further. And so I can't really stand with Satanism. The ideology itself, its central principles, in a political sense too, they're okay. But I'm an ex-Satanist. I'm a former Satanist and have been for a long time. There are some people, they look at one video I made 6 years ago, and they think they know everything about my spiritual journey. They don't even know about my occult playlist at all. They don't know about my conversion into the occult at large. They don't keep up with this. They see some video I made more than 5 years ago on the topic of Satanism and how I was practicing it at the time in an atheistic sense, again, to purge guilt and fear, sort of as this initiatory step. And they think that's like the end-all, be-all of my spirituality. Now I finally realize what Nicholas Schreck, also former Satanist, I was talking about when he expressed a concern on the Tate LaBianca radio show there about people uploading sort of the older, sort of the Satanic Panic era material, and saying, well, that doesn't even represent my beliefs anymore, and out of context, people will think that I still believe that way. It's basically the same thing. It's a similar path in some respects that I'm being led on. At the same time, though, I don't have an end goal. My goal is not to say, oh, I'm going to find some spiritual system, settle down in it forever. My goal is to be able to research them all, fuse things together as I see fit. I can do whatever I want. Ultimately, that makes me more satanic than a lot of these self-proclaimed Satanists. They've gotten trapped into this sort of atheistic cycle where they can't even allow their minds to stretch out any further. It's the same thing. It's no different from being a Christian zealot or an Islamic zealot and refusing to question your belief system or something like that. It's the same thing. So that's my problem with Satanism. You have to sort of use it and lose it if you want to get its true benefits. And that's actually how you, oddly enough, sort of ascend into a higher level of being satanic. You're becoming more like that sort of archetypal cosmic rebel. You're even rebelling against the system that enables you to rebel. There's nothing more satanic than that. But that doesn't mean you should join some retarded satanic order, self-proclaimed with a bunch of self-proclaimed high priest and mage or something like that. As far as all this, it's like spirit cooking. No, that's not really satanic. All it is really retarded modern art. Yeah, with a bunch of probably perverted individuals participating. But that has nothing to do with their religious beliefs. It has to do with the fact, oh, these people are in politics. Yeah, they abuse power. I wonder what else they could be abusing. That has nothing to do, my opinion on that has nothing to do with Satanism, because I'm not even a Satanist anymore. It, in fact, has more to do with the fact that I've studied and understand the occult and understand that that's not occultism. It has nothing to do with any occult path. And then people ask me to weigh in, like, on this this dude supposedly died in Brazil and left behind all this, like, writing on the wall and stuff. I think in that case we're dealing with a madman, honestly. If you look at the extreme, I mean, this is all handwriting in it. It's extremely, extremely straight and very, very orderly, almost to a robotic level. Yeah, it looks a little bit weird to me. It is a little bit unnerving, honestly. And I think it was Bruno, the statue there, wasn't it? Giordano Bruno, I believe, if I remember correctly. Although it looked kind of like a hermit Jesus at first or something like that. I'm not exactly sure. Or Borgio, actually. Might have been the name. Can't remember which one. Either way, it doesn't really matter, though. Now, this individual is crazy. And people who claim to worship the devil, largely, they're crazy, too. Some of them are. Some of the Luciferians, theistic Satanists, they're fine. They don't, go around cutting cat heads off or something like that. But some of them are, weird characters. No, I wouldn't want to be associated with them any more than the average fundamentalist Christian would, because they're probably a little bit like that, a little bit psychotic or something like that. No, I wouldn't want to spend time around them. But I'm an ex-Satanist, not a current Satanist, and I'll never join Satanism again because it's too empty, it's too vacuous, it's too atheistic. I'm more on the apatheistic side. I don't care. I don't care whether Peggy Nadramia or any of these other people in the Church of Satan or whatever say, oh, well, you occultniks, ha-ha, superstitious nonsense. I don't really care about their judgment because apparently they just sit there and collect money from people that want to join their organization. And so they're not spending their time like studying ancient classics or anything like that and stretching out their mind, because for them it's sort of just a business venture. It's fine. I mean, it's not a problem if you want to go down that path, but it's not exactly mind-enhancing or something like that. I also did a few too many psychedelics to remain totally atheistic and anti-spiritualistic, which is the other element. Spirituality is separate from theism. You can be an atheist and be spiritual. You can also be theistic but be very, very secular and against, the superstition side. I'm quite spiritual. I simply don't care about the deity issue. The Church of Satan, if you have any spiritual trappings at all, will actually laugh at you for that fact. A lot of people, I assume, they email the Church of Satan, oh, I want to join up, I want to worship the devil or something. And I imagine that the response is quite sarcastic when that happens. So that's a little bit about my experience. I'm a pagan and an occultist. I am not a Satanist, and I won't be joining Satanism again. I already know what all of these groups are about, and it doesn't offer anything to me. I've already purged myself of guilt and fear. It's the only use for them. It's an initiatory step that can be used by people on their pathway to other things. Even if they end up rejoining Christianity or something, at least now they have they're capable of processing things more intelligently. They're not just absorbing passively a bunch of bias for years and keeping that and being blind to what they're witnessing within Christendom, within Judaism or whatever. If they're filled with guilt and fear and all this, sort of the ethnic trappings of Rome or Israel or whatever, they're completely blind. Doesn't matter how smart they are, they're completely blinded by guilt and fear. If they can purge themselves of that, it doesn't even matter if they go back immediately to being a Christian. Now they're clear-headed. Now they're able to interpret that dogma for itself. Now they're capable of looking at it clearly. I have no problem with that. Yeah, I have no problem with it if somebody wants to purge themselves of that crap and then rejoin Christendom or something like that. Go ahead. It'll be helpful potentially in your life. Just don't take it so seriously you think it's actually about worshiping the devil, because this being, in all honesty, probably does not exist any more than your deity does. And I maintain that fact. I don't care, but yeah, it's in all likelihood, let's face it. That's about all. Peace out.